Goldman Sachs. The name itself just brings up these images of power, of wealth, and yeah, a whole lot of controversy. But here's the thing. There are two completely different stories about this financial giant. You've got the legend, the mythic beast of Wall Street. And then you've got the ledger, the official, kind of boring, bureaucratic reality. Today, we're going to put them side by side to figure out what's really going on inside one of the most powerful banks on the planet. You just can't talk about the legend of Goldman without starting right here. This quote from Rolling Stone is, well, it's unforgettable. A great vampire squid wrapped around the face of humanity. I mean, wow, that nickname has stuck for a reason, right? It perfectly captures that public image of this relentless, all-consuming financial predator. It's an intense image, and it really sets the stage for a dramatic story. So the big question is, how much of this is actually true and how much is just legend? Is Goldman Sachs really the monster everyone makes it out to be? To answer that, we've got to look past the crazy headlines and get inside the firm itself. And we're going to start with the people at the very, very bottom of the food chain. Right. So let's go inside the pressure cooker, because for the junior employees, that vampire squid might feel less like a metaphor for the market and a lot more like a description of their day-to-day lives. 95 hours. Just let that sink in for a second. 95. That's not just a long week, that's literally more than 2 full-time jobs every single week. This number came out of a presentation put together by the junior analysts themselves, and it just laid bare how absolutely brutal that entry-level experience can be. And if you think the work hours are insane, the sleep situation is just as bad. We're talking 5 hours a night on average. And all the while, you're expected to maintain, and this is a quote, an impeccable level of detail at 4 in the morning. I mean, that's just a recipe for disaster, for total burnout. And this is where it gets really real. This is the human cost behind those numbers. It's not just about being tired. This is a direct quote from that internal report. My body physically hurts all the time, and mentally I'm in a really dark place. It just describes this state of constant pain and distress, a reality that is a million miles away from the glamorous image of high finance. And then there's this. I mean, this quote is just, it's staggering. To have someone compare working at one of the world's most prestigious firms to the trauma of being in the foster care system and to say the job is worse, that is a deeply, deeply troubling look at the kind of culture they were living through. Okay, so that's the story from inside, from the employees. But what about how the firm treats outsiders? Let's pivot from that pressure cooker to the trading floor, because that's where the legend of the vampire squid was really born. So check this out. This is a classic story from the Goldman lore. Back in '98, this huge hedge fund, long-term capital management, was collapsing and went to Goldman for help. Goldman's price for even thinking about a bailout, they wanted to see their entire playbook, all their secrets. And what allegedly happened next is wild. The story goes that Goldman took that secret info and started trading against them, basically kicking them while they were down. And this quote from a Goldman trader back then, man, it tells you everything you need to know about the mindset. If you think a gorilla has to sell, then you sure want to sell first. It's this kind of ruthless logic, you know? It's not about being fair, it's about seeing a wounded animal and making your move first. And the key part, they believed they knew exactly where the legal line was, and they were happy to live right on that edge. And look, this wasn't just a one-time thing. Fast forward to the 2008 financial crisis, and you hear very similar stories. People from AIG claimed Goldman was actively trying to cause maximum pain to its competitors. It's an alleged pattern of behavior, using your knowledge, your leverage, to absolutely crush rivals when they're in trouble. Now, it's exactly this reputation, this whole maximum pain strategy, that absolutely terrified regulators. The fear that one bank could be so predatory it could crash the whole system, well, it led them to demand a completely different side of Goldman. So, get ready, because we are about to make a major shift in tone. We're moving from the wild legend to the official buttoned-up ledger. We're talking about something called the Global Resolution Plan. What is it? Well, basically, it's a living will. After 2008, regulators made these huge banks write these incredibly detailed instruction manuals for how to take themselves apart if they ever failed. The whole point is to avoid another massive collapse like Lehman Brothers. And this is the language of that world. Just compare this to vampire squid. This sentence, it's straight from the plan, It's dense, it's cautious, it's packed with corporate jargon, it's a language designed to sound stable and in control. The absolute opposite of the chaos we heard about on the trading floor. And this just gives you a little taste of the sheer complexity of the machine they're trying to control. This is just a tiny, tiny sample of the hundreds of legal entities that make up Goldman Sachs. You got staffing companies in India, market-making firms in Mauritius. It's this huge, sprawling global web that's almost impossible for one person to wrap their head around. And yet, according to that same super complex document, the official goal is actually simplification, de-risking. The official story, the ledger, claims they've shut down the very trading desks that were so central to that predator legend. They say they've sold off risky businesses and are trying to shrink that massive web of companies. But is that the whole story? So here it is, laid out side by side. This slide just captures that central conflict perfectly. On one side, you have the language of the legend. It's raw, it's aggressive, it's human. On the other, the language of the ledger. It's sterile, passive, bureaucratic. It's like they're describing two completely different companies. So how can both of these things be true at the same time? Is the ledger a real change of heart? Or is it just a smokescreen? And this massive contradiction, it brings us to a really crucial point about the firm's future. Is one of these identities winning? Is one taking over the other? Well, it seems like the battle might be decided not by regulators or the C-suite, but by the next generation of employees walking through the door. Yeah, there's this expert professor, Sir Cary Cooper, and he has a really interesting take. He argues a major generational shift is happening. He calls it the snowflake rebellion, and he actually means it as a compliment. He says this new generation, they value their well-being, and they're just not willing to put up with the insane, punishing work culture that older generations just saw as paying your dues. And Professor Cooper puts it perfectly with this analogy. He asks, would you like a surgeon to operate on your heart in his 100th hour? The point isn't just about work-life balance. It's about being effective. Pushing people to work 95 or 100 hours a week doesn't just hurt them. It leads to mistakes. And in the world of high-stakes finance, mistakes can be absolutely catastrophic. And you know what? It seems to be working. After that damning internal report came out, the firm's CEO publicly said they were taking it very seriously. They even promised to start enforcing rules like no work on Saturday more strictly. It suggests that the pressure from below is actually forcing some change. The question is it enough? So this brings us all the way back to our central question. Is Goldman Sachs the vampire squid of legend? Or is it the boring, risk-averse bureaucracy from the official ledger? The truth seems to be that it's somehow impossibly both at the same time. A place of extreme human pressure, and maybe some predatory tactics, all wrapped up in layers and layers of corporate compliance. At the end of the day, the identity of Goldman Sachs might just depend on your perspective, right? Are you the first-year analyst in a really dark place? Are you the rival hedge fund that's in trouble? Or are you the government regulator reading a 100-page plan? Each one sees a completely different company. So which one is the real Goldman Sachs? That might be the most fascinating question of all.